Good morning, everyone. I am Melinda Yee Franklin, Chair of the Board of Directors for the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce and Managing Director at United Airlines. I am so excited to welcome you all here today to the third annual WELL Conference. For those new to our program, WELL stands for Women Empowering Leadership and Learning. With a focus on empowerment, leadership, and education, WELL is the San Francisco Chamber's commitment to representing all genders at all levels across all industries. WELL allows us to come together as a community to empower and support each other and our female colleagues. As a female leader of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, I am proud that the Chamber advocates for diversity and inclusion in the workplace and beyond. Although we typically come together in person this time each year to network and share experiences with one another, we hope to still do that today. Last year's conference was incredible, and we will keep that going, we promise, in the future. Today's event is themed around the strong women who are in male-dominated industries, and we will hear from phenomenal women who have broken glass ceilings, found success through non-traditional career paths, and who have tackled challenges due to discrimination and bias. I encourage you to utilize the chat option on the bottom of your screen. Share your name, your company, and show your support for one another. I want to take a moment to thank our incredible sponsors. First, our title sponsor, an amazing company, Accenture, as well as Blue Shield of California, Visa, PG&E, Comcast, Hanson and Bridget, BlackRock, Recology, the Golden State Warriors, Fisher Phillips, Microsoft, Redwood Credit Union, and my favorite water, Hint. Now I am thrilled to introduce an amazing woman who helped make WELL possible. Julie Rosendahl is the Managing Director at Accenture and the Chair of the WELL program. Julie is the Managing Director within the Communications, Media, and Technology practice in North America for Accenture, in addition to the Marketing Director for Accenture's West region of the United States. Julie is passionate about advancing diversity and inclusion in the workplace, as she is the Program Director for the Accenture Women's Leadership Forum, one of the company's longest standing client programs, targeted at senior level women executives from Fortune 500 companies, particularly in the communications, media, and technology industries. Julie is also a founding member of WELL and our program chair. Without further ado, over to you, Julie, and thank you again.
Thank you, Melinda. The Chamber is so grateful for your dedication and leadership. Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Rosendahl, Managing Director at Accenture and the Chair of the San Francisco Chamber's WELL program. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be with you here today at the third annual WELL Conference. Our people and culture are our biggest competitive advantage, and our commitment to inclusion and diversity enables all of us to recruit the most talented people. This creates an environment which unleashes innovation and allows our people to perform at their very best. WELL launched in 2017 to offer resources, best practices, and to create a broad community of support for women in the workforce in San Francisco. Over the past 3 years, we have hosted over a dozen events on topics that are important to all of us. From work-life balance, financial wellness, and issues of race and gender equity, WELL allows us to be inspired, voice our challenges, and to support one another. We've highlighted amazing female thought leaders such as Kimberley Bryant from Black Girls Code, Nina Harris from Phenomenal Women, and last year's powerful keynote speaker and my friend, NFL reporter and Galvanize founder, Laura Bachman. Today, I'm excited to expand our list of inspirational female speakers to WELL family, starting with our opening speaker, Tyra Fennell. I would now like to introduce you to the moderator for today's opening session, President and CEO of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce and supporter of all things WELL, Rodney Fong. Rodney is deeply ingrained in our city as a fourth-generation San Franciscan and small business owner. He's currently a co-chair of Mayor London Breed's COVID-19 Economic Recovery Task Force, on which Tyra, our opening speaker, also serves. Rodney, take it away.
Welcome everybody to the Chamber of Commerce, San Francisco Chamber of Commerce Well program. I am very excited to be here with you today and very excited to have our opening speaker, Tyra Fennell, join us today. I just want to make mention, I am aware that I am the man in the room and here to listen, to support, to learn, to discover along with everybody else, and have a beautiful young spirited daughter who's in college now that helps remind me to keep focused on all the changes that we have happening in front of us and the great opportunities and the time that we are in right now. So the Chamber of Commerce is committed and been committed to leading that change and helping that the program succeed through our WELL program, Women's Empowerment, Leadership, and Learning. I want to just also start off by recognizing this has been a challenging year for everyone, but also a pivotal year. We've been thrown some great opportunities to be able to have our voices heard in many different sectors and many different communities. And so this is a time of change here in San Francisco, around the world. And I know that the Chamber of Commerce, along with Tyra, has been at the forefront of that change. And those are some of the things we want to talk about today. So formally introducing our guest, Tyra Fennell, currently serves as the San Francisco Mayor London Breed's administration as the Director of Commissions and Community Liaison. Prior to joining Mayor Breed's team, Tyra was the founding director of Imprint City, an organization activating in underutilized areas in neighborhoods with art projects, encouraging increased foot traffic and positive impact to local economies. Since 2015, Impact City has attracted over 15,000 event goers. Tyra, that's a lot of people. Over 200 participating neighborhood retailers, merchants, and food merchants, over 100 youth employees, and 50 community-based organizations and partnerships, and 150 performing visual arts in District 10 neighborhoods. Additionally, Tyra has been a vast experience working with city agencies and is the first employee with the was first employee as the San Francisco Arts Commission as as co-authoring legislation to support former district supervisor Malia Cohen, our good friend, in the designated Bayview Hunters Point area in San Francisco's African American Arts and Culture District. In addition to working at Imprint City, Tyra is a current board member of SPUR, a former San Francisco Film Commissioner, an Emerge California alum, and proud legacy graduate of Howard University. And if that wasn't enough, Tyra sits alongside Mayor London Breed on the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Task Force and has seen firsthand how passionate she is about making San Francisco more equitable for all. So Tyra, thank you very much for joining us. It is an honor to have you. Quite a background. Your family must be very proud of all of your achievements and where you're going. Maybe we can just start off by going just a little bit deeper. Like, that's a really impressive background, and then touching many different areas, government, but also the arts. And maybe just give us a little bit of background. How did you get there, and how did you sort of get these two very different worlds to collide, to come together for you?
Yeah, I don't know. When I was growing up, I always expected my career track to be sort of a straight line, undergrad, grad school, career. And, you know, in my parents' generation, you kind of got on the job and you stayed for 30 years and then you retired. But I think for younger generations, it's more of a curvy line. And certainly that's how it went for me. I started off actually as a cellist and worked as a cellist, or performed as a cellist for many years as a principal cellist in the DC Youth Orchestra. And that's how I got into music. And then when I went to high school, I actually got into writing, and then I continued to do performing arts while in high school at Duke Ellington School of the Arts. Many of my colleagues have gone on and become quite well-known artists, and we still stay in touch, like Dave Chappelle and Hank Willis Thomas and several others. But it was at Ellington, me running the writing track and the music track, that eventually culminated as to me becoming a songwriter, which I did after I finished school in New York, in Europe for many years. So I was a songwriter in Europe, and I had a pretty okay life there. I lived in London, but at some point you kind of have to take life inventory and ask yourself, okay, am I going to go into my 30s as a performing artist? Am I going to be able to take this all the way, or should I be looking at other options? And for me, I didn't feel that was the track I wanted to go down as my life's work. So I redirected back to the States and started moving my way towards San Francisco. I'll leave it there because I want to give the space for questions and things like that.
That is a fascinating background. And it really kind of leads me to one big curiosity I have, and that is, I'm a big believer in music, arts, public space art, public art, and how it impacts people and can touch them and maybe change their lives, people around them, just the overall mood. And I think you've struck on that in that performance, whether it's static, painted, or live, plays a very pivotal role in any type of movement. And can you talk a little bit about that? I know that you were deeply involved in the Black Lives Matter painting mural and use that as a platform to reach audiences, but how do those two connect in reaching audience?
Yes, and just want to be clear, this is before my time in the mayor's office. This is when I was still on the ground doing a lot of arts activation. You know, the Black Lives Matter mural started, of course, in DC, the way it's formatted on the street. I mean, there were other homages, but that was kind of the most popular one that went viral. Mayor Muriel Bowser, which is from my hometown, DC. And actually, funny enough, my girlfriend, you know, sent me the photo before it went viral. And I thought it was a really great idea. And then when other cities started coming on board, it's a symbolic gesture. I thought it would be a shame if San Francisco, the forefront of radicalism and protest and everything, wasn't a part of that sort of international messaging. And so that's how that came about. And it was very successful, it was very well received. We're very fortunate to live in a city where even though we have our flaws, everyone for the most part is trying to grow towards a better world. So we had a lot of support in doing that.
And how do you think in San Francisco we begin to measure some of that reaction? How do we? It's something that doesn't necessarily zeros and ones, and you can't assign data to it. Maybe you can, but how do we measure? How do we measure we're reaching out to people and making connections with them?
I think tangibles are very important. I think symbolic gestures like sit-ins, protest, art, that inspires people and it evokes passion. But then when that passion is at its high, what happens on the back end to leverage that and turn it into a tangible outcome for whatever community is being marginalized at that time, whether it's the trans community, the Black community, immigration issues? How do you leverage all that energy and passion and hone into something that's a tangible benefit to that community? And I think we see in our city a number of things are being reevaluated and amended to make that make those systematic changes. So we should feel very proud of ourselves, frankly. But we do have a ways to go. One, to see if those things actually work. And if they don't, how do we tweak them and continue to make it better? No one's saying it's going to be solved in a year, but the idea that I think a lot of San Franciscans want is to continue to grind away to get to that system of justice.
This WELL event, Women's Empowerment, Leadership, and Learning, has some of your work been sort of focused on that or not? And you've just been doing what has sort of come to you and opportunities that have come to you?
Well, all of my professional work is about building community. One key tangible in my time working as an arts producer is the cultural district legislation, which I think right now in San Francisco, there may be around 9, maybe more. And basically what cultural districts do, whether it's the LGBTQ, whether it's Calle 24 on the Mission or the African American Cultural District, is it allocates a space for a certain cultural group to have a space in the city. And with that comes funding support. And it's not just about the cultural aspect, it's also about ownership of the neighborhood and what things does a cultural district want to do to uplift that neighborhood further. For some, it's supporting small businesses. For some, it's maintaining home ownership. For others, they're different. Everyone's different, but it's something about that cultural district legislation that puts the ownership of that in those cultural groups' hands. That's a tangible that I think the city should be really proud of.
Yeah. Can we switch? I know that Imprint City did a lot of work with youth and young girls in particular. What is, if you can, just some of the messages that you were able to through the program and through yourself personally, convey to young girls
Yeah.
about and providing them with a pathway to opportunity? Obviously, they look at you and they see success. They see someone who has it together and is passionate about what they're doing, and maybe even folded in a personal passion into the workplace. Just maybe if you can share a couple of thoughts of
Sure.
share with the
So
girls.
we did provide job opportunities for youth, apprenticeship opportunities for youth. And one thing in general I'd like to talk to youth about, especially Black youth, is as they grow in their careers or their education, being comfortable being an outlier, being comfortable with growing into experiences that may not be known about in your own community, things that you're going to learn and understand that are different, and it's okay. And then you bring that knowledge back to your community. And with the young women in particular, you know, a lot of mediums they don't have a large presence of women, let alone young Black girls. So in particular, being an outlier myself, Burning Man is something I go to. I have a great time there. And I don't think it's not a typical thing that Black people know about or exposed to. And so when I brought Burning Man to the Bayview, it gave me an opportunity to not only introduce the Burning Man culture to the Bayview community, but more specifically introduce young women to engineering. A lot of Burning Man art is heavily engineer focused, chemical engineering. There are a lot of engineers that are burners. And so the young women in Bayview, I took a cohort of 10, had the opportunity to go to Moxie, which is a Burning Man hangar, and learn all the different types of engineering that goes into creating kinetic artwork. And so it was nice for them to see the mechanics of it, all the way to it coming to their neighborhood and being displayed in their community. So that was one highlight of something that Imprint City did and brought to the neighborhood.
That is very, very cool. I hope programs like that continue to go on. Anything else that you want to share just overall from a woman's perspective? This is not an all women's audience, but it's largely women's.
Yeah.
There hopefully are some men in the room as well, and just a message that you want to share with them.
I mean, I've been in a career track that is very atypical to a young Black girl from the urban city. I played cello right there. That's atypical. I've lived abroad. I was the first in my family to move and live abroad. So I've had a lot of first experiences. And so you're dealing, when you're in that situation, with two sides. One, you feel somewhat disconnected from your home community because you're experiencing things that they may not understand at all. And so you're constantly having to answer questions and sort of prove that you're still anchored in that community. While at the same time, when you're introduced to these new communities, there's a lot of microaggressions. People doubt why you're in those spaces. So you're kind of straddled between these two spaces that you're fighting to be respected in and to be validated in. And so what I tell a lot of young people as they're emerging into this sort of space is that you have to know who you are. They may not know who you are, but you have to know who you are and what you're capable of. And every time you feel negativity, microaggressions, people that are doubting your trajectory, you just have to live with that mantra and keep going. So that's something that was taught to me by my own mother, which gave me the wind to my sails, so to speak, to found a nonprofit. No one in my family my mom actually founded a nonprofit, so I was very lucky in that way. But it was very hard to navigate something without a blueprint. But if it wasn't for those words and that motivation from my mother and understanding that about myself, it would have been even more difficult.
You know, Tyra, in speaking with you more, you just ooze confidence, self-confidence. And I think that is so important, especially when you're trying to pioneer something or, you know, be the first person in that room that hasn't been there forever or a long time. But that confidence that you hold, I think, is so strong and important that I hope everybody feels that from this recording feels that energy and follows your footsteps, and maybe you help lead them in a own particular way as well. But I really appreciate that and getting that vibe from you right off the bat.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, if there's anything else that you want to share, we're gonna maybe just wrap this up, and thank you for doing this with the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. This is our 170th anniversary, and this program is brought to us by Accenture, who's been just a great sponsor. And we're just trying to learn more from those who are already practicing. It's kind of a little bit like a yoga practice. We want to have teachers out there who are practicing on a daily basis to share with others. And
Yeah, sure. I just want to thank you guys for the work that you're doing to support small business in this city. I had a nonprofit. I didn't have a for-profit small business, but I do understand in that the struggle small businesses are enduring right now during COVID-19. I think about them every day, and I just want to send a shout out to my small business owners in San Francisco that we will get through this, and I mean that from the heart. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. Those small businesses are feeling it, but I think you'll agree in San Francisco, we feel the symbiotic relationship more than ever between small business, nonprofits, a faith sector, big business, education, and we are all in this together, and we certainly will get out of it together. So I want to thank you very much for coming and joining us today, and hope you're able to join our other WELL events following this. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rodney and Tyra. Now I am thrilled to introduce our moderator of this year's WELL Conference panel. Dr. Shaku Miri is the Vice President of the Commission on the Status of Women. Dr. Miri attended UC Berkeley and Stanford University, and in 2008, she completed a fellowship in medical psychology at Duke University Medical Center. In 2010, she completed a postdoctoral fellowship at Stanford Hospital. While in graduate school, she worked at Planned Parenthood with pregnancy and at-risk teen girls and completed additional training in trauma treatment at the VA National Center for PTSD. Dr. Miri specializes in evidence-based treatment and has extensive research and clinical experience working with mood, anxiety, trauma, and eating disturbances, as well as women's mental health. She is chair of the board of directors of the National Iranian American Council, the largest grassroots organization focused on issues of discrimination and the advancement of peace. She serves as president of the board of directors of Lone Mountain Children's Center. She's a proud immigrant who moved from Iran to San Francisco at the age of 1 with her parents. Help me welcome Dr. Shaku Miri.
Hello, thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm really honored to moderate this panel of extraordinary women leaders. I want to take a moment to introduce each of our panelists today before we dive into what I know will be an amazing conversation. First, we have Kimberley Goode. Kimberley is Senior Vice President of External Affairs with Blue Shield of California. As a powerful storyteller, she drives business results through public relations, social media, reputation management, brand building, corporate social responsibility, diversity and inclusion, and employee communication. Kimberley previously served Northwestern Mutual as Vice President of Communication and Corporate Affairs, and she also served as President for the Northwestern Mutual Foundation, the largest corporate foundation in the state of Wisconsin. Preceding that, she held Vice President roles in corporate, worldwide, and global communications with Visteon Corporation, Kellogg Company, and Prudential Financial. She has earned numerous awards, including the 2019 San Francisco Business Times Most Influential Women in Bay Area Business. Welcome, Kimberley. We also have with us today Jennifer Cabalquinto. Jennifer is the Chief Financial Officer of the Golden State Warriors. In this role, she oversees all day-to-day and long-term financial planning, accounting, and treasury operations for the organization. Jennifer has 25 years finance leadership experience in a variety of startup, turnaround, stable, and high-growth business environments. Prior to joining the Golden State Warriors, she served as Vice President and CFO for Universal Studios Hollywood, NBC Universal's theme park, and CityWalk operations in Los Angeles. She has previously held various finance leadership roles within NBC Universal's broadcast division and Telemundo. Jennifer started her finance career as an auditor with Ernst & Young in New York. Selected as one of San Francisco Business Times most influential women in Bay Area business for 2015 and 2016, and she was honored also as a Forever Influential Woman. Welcome, Jennifer. Last but not least, we have Kim Pritchard. Kim is a certified airframe and power plant mechanic, and she is responsible for a team consisting of over 500 United Airlines employees. She's been with United for over 23 years. She began her career in the United States Air Force, where she served as a crew chief on large transport category aircraft for 6 years. She has served as co-captain of United Airlines' all-female international aerospace skills competition team, known as the Chicks Flips. She participates on multiple occupational workforce councils at the high school and college levels. She provides input to a number of member organizations which help individuals within the community prepare for viable work in the field. Kim has authored a monthly article focused on mentoring for United's business resource group, known as Impact, which was established to support females within the enterprise to help them achieve their career goals. Welcome, Kim. Thank you all so much for being here today. I thought we'd kick off with you, Kimberley. I'd love to start with you, given the extensive D&I work that you have done with your organization. Could you help us set the stage by sharing a bit more about your work and the goals, and what a successful D&I program looks like to you?
Great. Well, thank you so much. And first and foremost, I want to really thank the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce for putting together this session, bringing women together to talk about how we can be empowered through leadership and learning is an awesome goal. And on behalf of our 4 million members and our 7,000 employees, Blue Shield of California is proud to be part of this conversation and proud to sponsor this event. When I think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, the first word I think I want to leave you with is intentionality. And at Blue Shield, we've been intentional about driving a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy across every area of our business. And I think for any of our organizations, no matter your industry or profession, that intentionality means, first and foremost, starting at home, ensuring that your workforce and your workplace is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. And then you secondly want to look at your business practices, and you want to ensure that you are embedding diversity, equity, and inclusion in everything that you do. So for us, that certainly means within healthcare and creating health equity. And then the third component is ensuring that you think beyond your 4 walls. You're thinking about how you can contribute to society and what happens in every community from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective. So as we've been intentional about that at our organization for many years, this is not work that's done in a day or a year. This is an ongoing commitment with intentionality. We've been able to see some proof points. So we're really proud that we have achieved pay equity amongst genders and ethnicities. We have 50% of our leadership that are women. And importantly, it goes all the way to the top of the house, where we now will have, for the first time in our company history, a board chair. And we've also achieved board parity, where 50% of our board members are women and 50% are men. So that shows the kind of top-down commitment that you need to have and the ongoing intentionality that you need to drive that. And I think it's important for us as we talk about and focus on women, that we also understand that gender equity is really a component of striving for equity for everyone. So as we remove those barriers to equity for women of color, for people of color, we are able to see a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive organization for everyone. So it's so important for us to remember that diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just for any one group, it is for all of us. And the data suggests that organizations who do this well are the highest performing organizations.
That's great. I love that you speak to intentionality. I think that's just a great word that really kind of sets the stage for us as we think about issues of equity, for sure. Thank you. So my next question is really about the pipeline for women. Research consistently tells us that pipeline is a critical factor in gender equity. When we think in particular about male-dominated fields, women often enter the field at lower numbers, and their numbers continue to drop throughout training and advancement opportunities. And so I'm curious, maybe to turn to Jennifer and then Kim, how did you think about your fields in terms of being male-dominated when you first started in the field? Did you view that as an issue, and what helped you to be willing to push ahead?
Thank you for that. You know, it's so true that pipeline is really what matters. You know, when this position became available, I didn't know about it. And so it's the intentionality of an organization to actually look for a diverse pool of candidates, because particularly in the field of sports, I think you have a lot of young men who dream and aspire to a career in sports. And I don't necessarily think that, I know for myself, I can only speak for me. I didn't even know there was a career in sports. And so my background is in entertainment finance. But I think, the Warriors have always been committed to diversity, but I think, Kimberley said it best. It's the intentionality about making sure that you're uncovering talent, right? And so going out and looking for a diverse pool was something that they were committed to. And that's how they found me. Otherwise, I would not have known that this role was available. And probably even if I did know, and this is something that I think we women, certainly I know I'm guilty of it, is we tend to self-edit. And I would have looked at the role and said, I don't have sports in my background, so maybe I'm not the right candidate without even trying, right? And so the position was brought forward to me, and my initial thought was that, like, well, I'm not really a sports person. And the recruiter actually said, Jennifer, what are you talking about? You've been the CFO at Universal Studios. What do you think they do there? They sell tickets. They sell food and beverage. It's entertainment. And, the Warriors are embarking on building a new arena. And, you've overseen large construction projects for new theme park attractions. You're perfect. and it's that broadening of the lens that I think we women really need to do a better job of, but it's that intentionality of organizations who are truly committed to diversity to really going forward and looking for a diverse candidate pool.
Super interesting. And again, that theme of intentionality, being really mindful of what we do as individuals and as organizations, and that can make a huge difference.
That's right.
Kim, your field is also male dominated. How did that affect your decision making at various stages of your career development? And what helped you to be willing to push forward in that field?
Well, unlike the experiences of intentionality that we are enjoying now, when I started in this industry in 1981, there wasn't any of that. In fact, present day, only 2.4% of all FAA licensed technicians are female. And so there is a lot of intentionality surrounding that. I mean, even from a legislative standpoint. And so for me, just trying to push through my interests, I come from a family of 4 girls, and my dad was a little bit alone there, and he enjoyed cars, and I ended up sort of following that pathway. And I really loved the mechanical things. And when I talked to him about maybe going into that world as a career, he was the one that suggested maybe aircraft maintenance, and I'm really not sure how to go about that. So the military was an option back then. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, where there's a giant military base. It's the boneyard for aircraft. And so it was visual, and I saw it, but it never, just like what Jennifer was saying, I didn't think that was something I could do, and I didn't know how to go about it. I had some friends who pursued that, and male friends, and I thought, okay, well, I'll give that a try. And I got to tell you, I was so terrified when I was waiting for the plane to take me off to Lackland Air Force Base, and I'm like, how do I get out of this? Oh my God, I got to get pregnant or something. So it was like, but I went through with it. And look at me now. No, so I think what helped me a great deal was just that I really liked the work, and I really wanted to be part of it. And I always got a kick from then until present day that when people hear I work in the industry, like when they hear I work for Airlines, the first question is like, oh, are you a flight attendant? Even today. And I'm like, I get a kick out of saying, no, I work on airplanes, or I lead people who work on airplanes. I think there were times throughout my journey where it was pretty tough. There were days, and I thought, why am I putting myself through this? I could just take the easy route. I had been a hairdresser. I had coded medical records. I'd done other things before I went in the military and did this. And I thought, that is just not me. I'm not that desk person. I'm not that frou-frou person, right? And once I got into the groove of recognizing that my male counterparts and others, and I know this happens across all organizations and industries, but particularly in male-dominated field where it involves turning a wrench, they value technical competence above everything. And once I recognized that that was something I really needed to do, I persevered in that area. And when they saw that I was successful and learning, then I started to get the male allies coming out, right? And then that helped me go. And then, continue. And then I recognized that having a sense of humor and becoming approachable while I was learning and then after I learned was really the key to success, because the relationships that we cultivate and that we put effort into is what really, really makes a difference in the workplace. I don't care what the workplace is or what the work is. And I know that more than ever right now in these difficult times. And I think that it's really important that for women who are in a non-traditional field, not to be off-putting just because they're trying to show that they know what they're doing. It's a tricky balance, and I made mistakes, right? I could tell you all about them, but I will save you from some of those. But I had patient leaders as well, and I got lucky. And so what that did for me in my role now is to be able to help other women by giving them feedback, that intentionality that Kimberley talked about, seeing when they're about to go off track and intervening and mentoring. And, I think that every time I do that and I see that they're okay now, they figured it out or they got it, that just helps me go and want to go that much further and want to continue in this role. It's an exciting career.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds, Kim, like you're really pointing to knowing yourself, knowing the work that you do, and also knowing the power of relationships and mentoring, all really critical factors. Another thing that I think is a critical factor that we hear a lot about, but I don't know that we integrate really well, is self-care. So a lot of us hear about work-life balance, but research really consistently finds that women are often much better at taking care of others than they are at taking care of themselves. I'd love to hear from all of you. What do you do for self-care, and how has that enabled success for you? Maybe start with you, Kimberley.
Sure. Well, I'm going to borrow an analogy from Kim's profession. I think the airlines had it right when you get on the airplane and they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first. And the reality is, as women, we absolutely are just wired to be caregivers. And I think during this COVID time, we're finding that even more so to be a challenge for us to navigate this uncertainty. And so this is another area where you have to be intentional, where you have to put your oxygen mask on first. And for me, particularly during this sort of stay-at-home period, I've been biking and hiking, doing physical activity, enjoying the California sun and clean air when we can. I've been gardening, which I haven't done in years because I found the time to be able to plant some things. So I think the key, I've been trying to manage my screen time. I mean, Zoom is fantastic. I love Zoom, but I don't want to be on Zoom every hour of every day and into the night. So we've had to manage screen time. So I think the message for me is, even as we do our professional responsibilities, our personal responsibilities, we've got to, be intentional about that self-care. And then you also need to make sure that the organizations that we work with and work for are supporters in that process. So, at Blue Shield, we're in the healthcare business. We're in the wellness business. We understand that our employees are all experiencing significant challenges, particularly during this pandemic. And so we've provided additional flexibility, time off, resources to help people manage all of their responsibilities. And one of the things that I won't get into COVID too much now, but I hope we come back to that topic. But I think, being intentional about it, making sure that you take care of yourself, and then taking advantage of anything that your organization offers to help you with self-care, don't be afraid to ask. And that's mental and physical self-care.
For sure, mental and physical. I agree. I agree. So Jennifer, same question to you. How have you been thinking about self-care? What practices have been helpful, and how might those practices have been integrated into your success and career?
Sure. I'm guilty of not caring for myself very well. And so I think that word intentional comes back into play, and you do have to be intentional about it. And I agree with Kimberly. This time, stayed home. I actually am a gardener. So like that is something that I would normally do because we've been sheltering in place, and it's really allowed me to focus some time into what I want to do long term with my garden, which has been probably more fun than, I want to admit to. I also have made a point to read a lot more. This past summer, I've really decided not to, in an attempt to limit my screen time, I actually bought a bunch of books. And so the tactile nature of turning a page is something that I find extreme pleasure in. And so really focused on spending some time each day reading a book that has nothing to do with work. So I think that allows me to sort of rest my mind. It's a very stressful time. And so I think that that's been really great. We at the Warriors actually created a Slack channel called Wellness in Place. And I love going to it, and our group has really been putting wellness challenges in there every day. And while I can't do most of them because they entail, like being able to do a plank, or some of the physical challenges are much harder, but there are also some really fun ones like, make your bed and, do some, reorganize your closet or something like that. And it's just been fun to watch our team members, posting pictures of them completing their challenges. And it's allowed us to stay connected. And for me, that's really, when you're in a business of, shared experiences, live entertainment, there's something really missing about working from home and not being able to collaborate with your teammates every day. And so having that and an insight into everybody's world and how they're sort of managing has been really, really a pleasure for me, just to be able to watch, even if I can't participate in all the challenges because they're too hard.
And a great way to just remember the importance of taking care of yourself. And if I can't do it today, at least I know someone's out there doing it, and that serves as inspiration.
That's right. It's a daily nudge that I should be doing something.
Exactly. Kim, moving to you, self-care, anything that you do that's helpful? Any thoughts on how, the role that it might play in your own career and work-life balance?
Yeah, United has done amazing things with helping folks with remote work and messaging for those of us who might need a little extra assistance from the emotional standpoint, place to vent, EAP. And also we partnered with Clorox, and we really, and you can imagine in our world how important the personal protective equipment, the PPE, and the cleaning standards are. So, from that standpoint, I'm very fortunate to work in an organization that is so focused on that for the health of our customers and our employees. Myself, though, I'm with Jennifer, okay? That is something, I'm an essential worker, so I'm here often 12-hour days, many days a week, and then on the phone, texting. I wake up at 10 to 4 in the morning and look at my email before I even open my eyes early. So, there's a lot going on, and sometimes, just like Kimberly said at the very beginning, as women, we feel like we need to care for everybody all the time. And that is exactly how I roll, and it's very hard. Yesterday, I walked out of here after like 9 hours, and I felt guilty, right? But I know that this is a period of time that is very difficult for my teammates, my coworkers, and all of that. So I know from my lesson of perseverance that this too shall pass. And so I kind of, use that as a mantra when I need to. I do a couple things now. One of my boyfriend's mother gave me a book, and it's a daily inspirational read. And I started doing that when I'm sitting there in the morning, dark 30, and looking at my email. I sneak a peek at that. And that does help keep me grounded in faith and the things that are important to me. And then the other thing is, even if I can't get enough sleep and maybe not enough structure to exercise just because of time, I do pack in my bag every day during snacks for every few hours. I can grab something healthy. So I have that with me, and I recommend that to anybody because it's so easy to go all day and not eat, and then, you know, you're not thinking clearly and you're just not there. So that would be my tip, and that's kind of how I try to engage in self-care until I can like do it for real.
Well, I think that is for real, right? How we treat our bodies, you know, being attentive to hunger and satiety and thirst. And I mean, the basics really matter and can make the difference between a really, you know, reasonable day and a day where we're overwhelmed. Yes, I have mine too. It's
Drink
great.
lots of water all day.
Nice. So you all mentioned COVID, and I know that this new reality of the pandemic has really meant so much change and challenges for really every sector of society. My own kids just started school this week, so lots of change, right? And I know from my work with the Department on the Status of Women here in San Francisco that the COVID-related challenges have really hit girls and women in very unique ways in our society. I'm wondering, really from all of you, feel free to jump in, how has COVID changed things for you, either personally or professionally, to any extent that you're willing to share? Maybe start with Kimberley, since you alluded to COVID first.
Well, I'll be happy to talk about it on a personal, but being in the healthcare industry, I got to talk about it a little bit from
yeah, for sure.
In that, you know, this kind of a pandemic is certainly an opportunity for companies like Blue Shield to really step up and model for organizations, what does it mean to sort of pivot in a pandemic like this? And, you know, that pivot happens for our people, it happens for our providers, our members, and our communities. And what we learned is that when you're a mission-driven, values-directed organization, even when circumstances like this pandemic come up, you don't pivot from your values and your mission, but you do have to pivot in your practices. And so we found that we had to accept a new reality. We never thought we'd have the majority of our employees working remotely. Within days, 7,000 people had the equipment they needed to be able to operate. And I know many organizations have done the same. So we had to accept what is this new reality and how do we operate in that environment. Then we also needed to adapt. We had to understand, where do we need to pivot on our business practices so that we could take care of first the people who then need to take care of our members. And then we needed to learn how to accelerate. We had to make decisions much faster as we learned the needs of providers who were cash strapped and others, members who needed support. We needed to move quickly to do that. So I think for me professionally and personally, it was a matter of, I have a 4-generation household. So I have 2 elders in my care, and the caregiver is not coming to the house anymore. So I am working professionally while navigating a college-age kid that had to return home unexpectedly, all the way up to my 95-year-old grandmother who needs help with meal preparation every day. So, you know, I think it's been a busy time for me, and it helps me as a leader to really appreciate what my people are going through. And I think, you know, using our intentionality theme, it's made me lead with a human, honest, and courageous leadership style to really engage our people in a way of understanding, how are you impacted? And what do I need to do as your leader to help you navigate through this? And sometimes it means my employees' kids are popping into the conference call and we're rolling with it. And the dogs are barking, and we are just really trying to understand that this is a profound time that has human impact on folks, and we all need each other to adapt so that we can, you know, support each other through it. So that's my coping mechanism. It's really, you know, just remembering that we're people first, and whether you're an essential worker or a worker who is able to work remotely, all of us are really changed and impacted by this, and it will take all of us being a little more empathetic to each other, and making sure that we ensure that all of us have what we need to cope.
That's right. Jennifer, how would you address that question?
Yeah, no,
or either personal or professional.
Sure. You know, personally, I have, I have a son who's remote school. And so the challenge, especially he's 13, and kids are so smart these days. And so, the trying to make that he's actually paying attention to school rather than the, texting his friends or a different, a chat room or all of the things the kids have just been able to figure out how to do to be distracted from learning. And so that's a challenge, but understanding that other families are dealing with the same challenge. And really, I think it's the empathy that's really become pronounced. And it's something that we at the organization have really been sort of stressing, is that everyone's dealing with something right now, and you can't presume to know. And so I think being more forgiving, certainly being more flexible, and increasing the amount of communication back and forth, right? Like I can't guess what's going on. And so really encouraging my team to communicate. And that means, and I think to Kimberly's point, to be even more open than normal, sharing your experiences, sharing, the issues that you're dealing with. Because as you do that, I think certainly my team, our communication is now, I think, has never been better, because I think we've really shown each other our own vulnerabilities. And so we've really stepped up for each other and backed each other up when needed. And so I think that's, when you think about the lessons of COVID and what can we bring back post-COVID, I think this deliberate and intentional communication that we've had is something I hope that we can continue to carry through. I mean, we started this shelter in place, and we were talking every day as a team. We've lightened that pace a little bit, because acknowledging that we've sort of gotten used to work from home, remote, and the technical issues aren't the same. But just that touching base with everybody and knowing what's going on, I think, and just being everybody's support system has really been incredible. And then, again, sharing tips and practices. We have working parents, we have, caring for your parents. I have my parents, I haven't seen them in, now almost a year because of COVID, and dealing with that stress, I think being able to share it with your team and your teammates certainly lightens the load. And so I think just improved communication has probably been the greatest thing to come out of this for me personally, but also I think for the organization.
So it sounds like the communication piece, the empathy piece, and also really the ability for everyone to be more authentic and sort of settle into these are all human challenges that many of us are experiencing right now. Yeah, I love that. Kim, any thoughts on COVID and the specific changes that it has brought for you, either professionally or personally?
Yes, well, I think in both realms, there were lessons to be learned. From a professional standpoint, I mean, United as an air carrier, okay, we had lots of special challenges in messaging to customers and just the logistics. Like Kimberly was talking about the, having to pivot for, just getting things stood up and getting communication systems and whatever you needed to do to rise to the challenge and protect our people, right? I was part of a core team from across the system who was working together to make sure that we had a plan for who had masks where, because there was the shortage of masks, right? So how could we get them moved from one place to another? If we had excess masks, how could we donate them to the hospitals in the region? The messaging for our customers, like we even back in before COVID, we did a lot of fuel efficiency work, and we were, proud of the steps we were taking in the direction of more green flying, environmental friendly flying. And part of that was to keep our auxiliary power units, the little engine that, we use for cooling and heating on the ground and stuff like that, that we would shut those off and use, However, the filtration system then is bypassed. So what we did is like, okay, forget fuel, we're going to protect the customers, and we're going to just keep it going, and then let the customers know we're doing that. Redirecting the airflow within the cabins so that it's not flowing back to front, it's flowing up and down, so there's less risk. And just the HEPA filtration system itself, educating people that it's even better than hospitals. So there's a lot of things going on there. I also was responsible for the main entry station for employees into the maintenance center here for temperature check station. And we prototyped the infrared technology, a $50,000 camera, and we had to have our supervisors and managers man the station and be able to get people socialized for that. And they were getting frustrated, you know, and the social distancing while they're in line and the whole thing. And as of this week, we now have it to the point where it can flow in and they can, you know, automatically see their temperature and be able to grab a sticker for their badge and their mask and keep going, you know, kind of thing. So there was so much that happened from the COVID side here that also from the workplace requirements helped our employees be a little bit more open and be able to have those habits established when they were just moving about public realm, right? So that was a big deal. Being a female leader in this world of still very, very high population of men, to your point, Jennifer, about having the kids at home and having all of that, I never miss an opportunity to say to one of my male counterparts, hey, give your wife a break when you get home, right? Right? Take on those kids, you know, do whatever, because it's not easy. And so I try to do my part there. So
that's great. I might give my husband's phone number in case you want to give him a reminder.
Right? But, you know, what I'm finding personally and professionally amongst my coworkers is that that we are engaging in more conversations that take us into a more private area. Like here we've got COVID and we have a certain style mask requirement for that. Then all of a sudden we got the wildfires and it's a different kind of mask for that. And then it's, you know, hey, are you okay with the COVID and the wildfires? What can we do? How can we help? And, you know, so I think that has, like the others have said, you know, it's forced us to have a little bit more deeper connection with people than we might have otherwise pursued. I mean, when we come in, you know, it's about the operation, it's about people, and we have that, but it's more about the people now. I mean, we're going through a furlough situation this week, and it's all about the people. You know, you can't forget that, and that lives are being impacted, and it all started with COVID.
Yeah. So the themes are really about communication, taking care of each other, being more empathetic, being willing to be more authentic. And I think all of that connects us to the next topic I wanted to ask about, which is really advice to women. So you're all in these very advanced stages in your career. What thoughts and advice would you have to women who are either entering your field or who maybe are currently in your field but are uncertain about their future or their progress or movement upward? Any shared advice or insights that you would offer? Maybe we'll start with you, Kimberly.
Well, let me say, if you are in a male-dominated industry, listen to Jennifer and Kim and all the great insight that they've shared about their experience. And I would say, don't be discouraged, because many of our industries, if not all of our industries, were male-dominated at one point. So at the end of the day, what we need to, all of us do, is continue to grow in our career, learn from the phenomenal role models that you have, take advantage of mentoring opportunities. And even as we are in this time of COVID that is putting so much pressure on, in some cases, women who may have the duality of caregiving and professional relationships, stay intentional about being visible, being heard, and advancing in your career, even in the face of these challenges. We don't want the gains that we've experienced as women to go into decline because of, you know, the children who are at home and need our care, or because of any other outcome coming out of the pandemic. And there is a concern about that. So I would say just be very intentional as an advocate for yourself and an advocate for others, so that we can continue to see the progression of all of our industries becoming more diverse, more equitable, and more inclusive.
It's beautiful.
That is so spot on. That is just so spot on. But you know, it's such an interesting question, because I think the advice that I got when I was coming up is not the advice that I would give to women of today. And if you think about, and I think it just goes to show how much has changed, right? When I was coming up, it was don't make too many waves, you know, get along to get along, you know, it's not that big a deal, just smile, laugh it off. And now it is really about finding your voice and standing up for yourself and knowing your value. And really, you know, I think it starts with performance, because all of those things don't matter if you're not a top performer. But perform, you know, I think really find role models, find allies and sponsors, but really know your value, find your voice, advocate for yourself. Because those are things that, you know, I had to learn along the way, and the role models were fewer and far between. And there were more people saying, you know, relax, don't rock the boat. And I think it's different today. I think you need to let people know what your ambitions are. And I think that there are women and role models and certainly men allies that are there to support you in your career choices. And I think you have to be willing to, you know, advocate for yourself.
For sure. And if you're in a leadership role, whether it's a male-dominated industry or not, having a strong voice is really about your own beliefs as well as uplifting others.
That's right.
Right. And so maybe, Kim, for you, the next question kind of related to this theme of having a strong voice. Can you share an example of maybe a time where you spoke up and it did make a difference, or where, you know, having that strong voice either lifted up your own voice or that of other women in the field?
You know, I'm not sure that an example based on the conversation we're having is really as powerful as I think what I would recommend to the females who are sort of in the leadership role or just getting into a leadership role, what I would recommend to them that I've shared with others and it's helped them, right, is that we have kind of naturally, most of us have the nurturing thing down, have the listening thing down, have the, hey, I'll take care of that down, right? We'll figure it out, whatever it is. What I find is very helpful are the things that resonate from a professional level, and what men seem to be pretty able to convey. Get your arms around your metrics. Whatever your KPIs are for your organization, know them, speak them, be able to explain it to others, be able to help, you know, those, you know, that report to you, understand them and get behind them and fill that void, because that seems to be sometimes what I've noticed in myself as well, you know, to struggle to a little bit do what I call the noun verb kind of communication instead of the storytelling that many of us like to do. I had to learn to adapt to my male audience, and oftentimes it was just get to the point already. Okay, you've taken me around the mulberry bush and all that. Let's just, what do you want to do once you're there, right? So I think succinct communication and being aware of your KPIs and being able to speak to that is very important for that level, right? For any females coming into it, I've done so much of this sort of thing in mentoring. There's so many examples of folks that, you know, I've run into that seem to have an interest or they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I do this little jewelry making thing that I demonstrate to younger girls in the Tech Bridge group and some others when we have the opportunity to host things like that. And I show them an engineering print, and I show them how the fasteners that are actually used on airplanes you can string onto their necklace and things, and just give them something tangible that they can, you know, feel and see and touch that, hey, I strung that, hey, that's an airplane thing, you know, and just recognize that we can do it and we don't have to act like a man to work with a man. Mm-hmm. And I think some females that are very female, that are, you know, they don't want to lose that, and they're fearful that they're going to. They don't have to. There's no reason why you can't be yourself and do this. It's just adjust to a couple things and learn some more stuff and grow, you know, and you'll be fine. And I got to tell you, it is so exciting to be able to be counted among people that are successful in these types of roles. You know, we got a little superpower, and we just have to do it quietly, you know?
I love that. It's a superpower. That's great. So we have time for one more question, which I really want to get to because I think it really is about hope. And I mentioned earlier that I have 2 children. My daughter is in 1st grade. And, you know, when I think about her, I feel really grateful that she has the experience of having women like the 3 of you in the public sphere. I often say that she can, you know, she'll be able to do it if she can see it, right? She has to have role models and visions of what it's like for women in leadership in her world. And so women like you give me a lot of hope for the world that she's going to inherit. I'd love to hear from each of you. What gives you hope?
I mean, well, sorry.
No, jump in.
No, I mean, I'm working with several organizations that are really focused on developing women and leaders. And so the focus on closing sort of both the gender gap and the educational gap, equity gap, to me is really important. And that always gives me hope. There's so many unsung heroes out there doing incredible work that I know that next generation is going to be just phenomenal, and they're going to be able to clean up all these things that we just messed up.
Great. We have just under 2 minutes left. Either one of you, Kim or Kimberly, want to jump in with something that gives you hope?
Yeah, you know, I will say that the crisis over this summer with COVID and the civil unrest has really given me hope when I look at the advocacy of so many in our country that are speaking up. You know, I work for a company that has as one of its 5 business strategies to stand for what's right. And I am so encouraged, particularly with the number of young people that I see standing for what's right, trying to do good in the world. And that gives me a lot of hope, knowing that we are raising children who want to make the world a better place, and I'm confident that they will.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you all so much. I mean, this whole conversation fuels hope, right? And I can't thank you enough for all of your shared insights, and also the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce for putting this wonderful event together. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you to our incredible and inspiring panelists. Now I have the honor to welcome our closing speaker, the one and only Chef Dominique Crenn. Dominique Crenn is the co-owner and chef of the 3 Michelin-starred restaurant Atelier Crenn in San Francisco, where artistry is at the forefront, cuisine is a craft, and the community is an inspiration. Atelier can be defined as a workshop or studio, a concept that drives Chef Crenn's modern vision for fine French cuisine. Crenn made history as the first female executive chef in Jakarta, Indonesia, where she headed the kitchen at the Intercontinental Hotel. After having spent about a decade away from San Francisco, she returned in 2008 to head the kitchen at Luce in San Francisco's Intercontinental Hotel. It was there that Crenn earned her first Michelin star in 2009, and again in 2010, becoming the first female chef in the US to receive this honor. In 2018, Crenn beat her own record and became the first female chef in the US to receive 3 Michelin stars. And as you'll hear, not only the first female chef, but just being a chef in general is incredible, and for her to win 3 Michelin stars is an amazing accomplishment. Crenn continues to be an outspoken and active member of the international culinary community, promoting innovation, sustainability, and equality through her collaboration with organizations such as the Basque Culinary Center and Pan American Development Foundation. Please welcome Chef Dominique Crenn. So Chef Crenn, thank you again so much for joining us today. And to kick it off, I wanted to ask you, when did you know you wanted to become a restaurateur? And how did you make the move to open your own restaurants? And what was your initial vision?
Well, I don't know if I knew that I wanted to be a restaurateur. I knew that food was something that I love. I love the symphony of it. I love the idea of it. I've never studied cooking, but I thought it's just the connection of it. And I had an accident in 2009, and this is when I realized that I didn't have anything to lose, and I wanted to do my own things to open not just a restaurant, but open a space where I could feel safe, but also others could feel safe, and others could have a voice, and being very creative. So it's really, like an artist, just like, okay, let's open a restaurant now. But not, it was something, it was doing something with purpose, and that was meaningful to me, and hopefully to my also business partner, Juan Contreras, which is still with me for 14 years now, which is great pastry chef. So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I have to ask, given that we're the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, how did you choose San Francisco?
I fell in love with San Francisco. I fell in love without knowing San Francisco. I remember at this, and I don't know if it ever happened to you, but at this moment, I was getting off the plane from Paris, and I arrived in San Francisco after probably, I think it was like 11 or 12 hours in a time, in the economy, totally tired, and just I just came out literally of the plane, and I felt something so, it's like almost like love at first sight without even seeing anything. And I just realized at that moment, okay, this is home. This is the first time I felt at home somewhere. And then I just went on and look at the city and hang out and discover people and businesses and the life here. And I just fell madly in love with the city of San Francisco, and I'm still so madly in love with the city of San Francisco, and I want to be a part of continuing, what the beauty of the city can give us. A lot of work to do right now.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's such a strong endorsement, and you're such an ambassador for all of us. So thank you for saying that. And I know that your restaurants do not serve meat, and as a vegan, I actually love that. Can you speak about your underlying philosophy in making that decision for your restaurants?
Well, I mean, one of the restaurants has never served meat or meat product since the beginning, which is a Petit Crenn, always focus on vegetable from the farm and fish, seafood. I am so angry about the industrialization of food and those factories, and for a long time. And I, even if I'm not, I'm mostly pescatarian, and I, to make a point, I think it was very important, especially as someone that is in the food industry, that need to take a stand on this, and who are we if we chefs, are we just cooking to just serve the public and don't think about the consequences, or do we have a voice to make sure we make the changes necessary to make sure that we take care of this planet, and we take care of the people, and especially of the health of people. I've never been an advocate about the factory farming, and never since the beginning of time, even in France. And I think it was, sometimes you have to go to the extreme to be able to find a balance. And we all know the effect of those factory farming, climate change, but also the health of people. I don't want to eat that shit. I'm sorry to say that. I don't want to eat that. Sorry, I said the word. And a matter of fact, we're doing, I think the percentage of vegan menu that we're doing here and in all the restaurants is pretty amazing, and we love that. So more power to you. So I'm behind you. So
thank you, my friend. Thank you. I've heard you be an outspoken climate change, really, really talking about climate change from your heart, and I would wonder if you can elaborate a bit on that.
Well, I mean, I'm going to give people a very simple way of thinking about who we are and where we are. We live on a planet called Earth. And I'm going to take the religion out of it. This is a place where we were born, and you have this beautiful land around you. We all know that long time ago, this planet was just a water, it was full of water, and then there is the erosion, and then nature start to form. As a human, we are a guest on this planet, and we have forgotten how to commune with nature. And what we have been doing for years now, we've been taking from it, and we've been destroying our surrounding. So imagine as a human, you put a foreign object inside of your body every day. I don't think your body is going to do very well. This is what we're doing with Earth right now. We're putting so many things that destroying, and so it's suffering, and we need, everything as a purpose, the ecosystem as a purpose, the plant and all that, and we need to really rethink about this. And we all know that since the industrialization of everything, of food and other things, the emissions just, it's I don't want to even talk about the number, but I just want to say that we have not been doing a good job, and it's a very small length of time, that we've been destroying it. So it's very important for us to understand that we have the responsibility to take care of the ecosystem and the planet, not just for us, but also our children and the generation to come. So as far as San Francisco, what I would love to see in San Francisco, and whoever is in charge of San Francisco, and I would love to see this city to just be electric. Electric car, and a lot of also places where we can walk and use transportation that doesn't affect anyone, and that would be so amazing. It's such a small city. I think we could do it.
I agree. We're very well situated to do that, and the governor just made his statement on no gasoline cars in the near future.
By 2035, which is great, but is it soon enough? I don't. I think we need to start the work right now and start to implement system and structure that we allow us to be more as a green city than that we are right now. I mean, it's so small. I mean, if I drive from Atelier Crenn to, let's say, the Castro, it takes me 40 minutes to get there. And I live in Larkspur. It takes me 20 minutes to go to Larkspur. Yeah. So it's just like, there's something going on here. There's too much traffic, too many cars. We can't breathe anymore. I just want us to be aware about maybe making changes. And it just says, it comes from all of us. We have to make the changes. It needs to start with us,
Yeah, I agree. And now's the time more than ever, coming out of this pandemic, that, to us, it's like, let's start over. Let's figure this out. And that's a huge issue for sure. So let's talk a little bit about your success, and listening to some of your interviews, reading your book, you have a very interesting view on success. And how do you determine success? How do you see what success is in your lens?
Well, my dad was one of my mentor, and he taught me at a very young age that success is not about what you own and how much property you have and wealth. Success is really what comes from within and what you have give others as a giving back at there. And I think that this is what success is about. It's not about it has nothing to do with, your wealth, or if you have 2 or 3 cars, or if you can travel the world. It's really what you have done as a citizen and as a human, and what you have give back to others, perhaps, and your surrounding, and what is the purpose of your life, and what is the changes and the difference that you can make with yourself, understanding who you are, but also understanding what others receive from you. So that's what success is about. So I don't need much, you know, I don't need much. I just want to make sure that, you know, that my place on this earth is, and I want to make sure that also my legacy will be, and that would be remembered for someone that I've giving herself to others to make sure that others um, uh, were good. So
Yeah, I agree. I know you have 6-year-old twins. I have a 20-year-old son, and leaving our legacy, making the world better for our children, you know, that kind of thing is just, that's what drives me as well.
that's I call it success, you know.
Yeah. So let me ask you, our theme for WELL this year is being a female in the male-dominated society, and particularly in your industry. What challenges did you have as a woman, and you currently still have probably in a male-dominated industry? What are your thoughts on that? And one more thing before I have you answer that, I watched your CBS interview where you said, I don't want to just be known as a great female chef, but a great chef, and I couldn't agree with you more.
Of course, you know, I mean, I think it's you know, I think it's really the world that we're living in, and we've been living in this world for a long time, and even, you know, not just in America but all over. It's not that long ago that women had the right to vote, you know, when you think about it, and we have been looked at as kind of a second citizen for century, many years, where not all of, because it's been a lot of very powerful women, you know, out there, but I think it's all about education and culture, and I think we need to understand that, especially in my industry, that it has nothing to do with your gender. And you know, one of the great, unfortunately, I'm just thinking about Judge Ruth this past, that was such an advocate about, you know, feminism, and you know, my want and my fight, and I don't know if it's a fight, it's just people need to look at us as human, not as gender. You know, we need to stop that, and people need to stop to tell us what we need to do with ourselves and our, you know, our body and all of that. And if we have this understanding that we all here to give, you know, a skill to something, to a restaurant, or to fly a plane, and people gonna understand that we as good as male, you know. But to get there, we still have a lot of work to be done, you know, and it's difficult, and we are still fighting for it. And it's just incredible that when we are trying to have a voice, you know, heard, we getting, you know, pushback from people that's like, what are you talking about? Why are you doing this? You know, stay in your house and do the things you need to do and take care of your children. I'm like, what kind of world we're living in? So I mean, I think it's yeah, my industry is still, you know, it's making some progress, but there's a lot of work to be done. It's still very much a six world, and masochist, and, you know, we not looked at, you know, at people that we had look at people that are different still. And I'm going to say it, you know, and for people to say, well, you know, I hire women. I was like, are you hiring me woman for the right reason, or hiring a woman because you think you have to do it, otherwise somebody's going to point finger at you? It's like, you got to do it. You got to do your work. You know, you got to understand that diversity, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. So bring people from any walk of life, you know. And I got to tell you, I think, and as we could see it in this pandemic, places and country that are lead with by female have done the best job than other countries. So here we go.
I agree. Yeah, there you go. New Zealand, for one, right? And it goes on and on.
Amazing. Yes, Germany, New Zealand, amazing woman in New Zealand. She's just so inspiring. That one.
Incredible. So let's continue that theme. When was the first time you stood up for yourself? And how do you continue to speak up for yourself? I know that your father, he helped you to cultivate your confidence to get to know who you are. Can you elaborate on this?
Oh, hold on.
Sure. You're so popular, Chef.
No, this is my fiance calling me.
Oh, she's great, by the way. Love Maria. Thank you. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
You know, hold on, let me, okay, she's sitting here that I'm on the call. I'm just going to take a picture of you and
Wave. Hi, Maria.
So the first time I stand up, first of all, I stand up for others. I very young age, I will not allow anyone to be bullied. And believe me, I fight a lot, and I'm a big fighter, and I believe in justice and all that. So, you know, my dad told me that he told me to go into this world and to be with confidence and to know and to understand deeply who I am deeply, and to not be worried. And it's going to be difficult at times, but always know who you are and always stand for yourself, but also for others, and never complicit about being silent about something that you not agree with. And that's really big, you know, at a very, you know, when you're a very young woman or even a child still, that you have your dad telling you that, it's very impactful. And I don't believe in silence. I always stand up for what I believe and for what is right. And if I'm the only one that's standing up for something, I will continue that for the rest of my life, because it's important to speak up always when things are not right. So
I consider you like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who you just mentioned. You're fantastic, Chef.
I'm not as close, but she's definitely an amazing inspiration, you know.
Absolutely. So let's continue to talk about equality and justice. Please describe your thoughts on how food brings people of different races, ethnicities, LGBT, women, and diverse economic levels together. How do you see food as that bridge?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, food, we all know that food brings people together. I mean, there is no border, you know, anywhere you go in the world, you know, you sit down at the table and people, you know, food go to the table and discussion and all that, but food is politics, you know, and food needs to be looked at as a weapon, but not a bad weapon, not a negative one, but like a powerful weapon to change a lot of structure, to change inequality, to change the, you know, to be able to, there's a lot of a food desert out there. We all know that, you know, the pandemic have shown us that food is very important for the health, you know, especially the health on a healthy way. It's also bring people together, you know, and it's spark conversation. You know, I would love to set up a huge table in the middle of the street in San Francisco or anywhere in the world, where I will go and bring people with different ideas and matter of fact, it's a show that I would love to do, and so nobody can steal that idea, and have them, you know, talk. And, you know, they will have a choice to stay and talk and eat and drink together, or just leave. And I think it's it could be extremely powerful, you know. But it's also, you know, it's also, food can also bring, it can oppress you and suppress you, you know. I think, you know, I mean, we all know that when king, and they're still doing that, some dictator, you know, when they want to suppress the voice of their people, they take away the food.
Yeah.
And so, it's been done for a century and it's still done right now. When, in the 1960s, I'm going to tell you this right now because I've done a lot of research about food desert and the understanding of food is up to the 1950s, 60s, the best food in America were made by the African American. Farm to table, delicious food. And what happened, the small, the SBA start to give loan out to corporation. And you have those corporations like McDonald's, Burger King, and those fast food companies start to come in and took those loans and implement all those fast food places all over those community and take away their culture and bring the shitty food out there. I'm sorry, I'm going to use that word again. And when you go to those community, you see there is no culture because those corporations are not. There is no culture. Food is culture. If you take the culture away, then you take the voices, and you start to see inequality and health issue and things like that. So.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. So talking about your team, how have you found, built, and lead the team that you have in your restaurants? And how have you encouraged equity in the kitchen and the industry as a whole? How do you start dialogues and people speaking about the very issues we're speaking about now?
Right. So I think, it could apply everywhere, but I think the way that the importance of us building, the way we build a team is we need to, we don't look at us as boss. We're not the boss. We are leader. We are leader, and we building a team around us to be able to inspire them, but also for them to inspire us. So you got to build a team that you give them and enable their voices to work together. And that's how we do things here. And that's why probably we have an amazing team right now, and everybody that is staying here and be working through these 7 months of pandemic already, because they know that their voice are important. And that as being the leader perhaps of the team, that I trust them in the way they make also decision, because they know that it's also inspiring me to be a better leader. So it's kind of a give and take and give and take, and really understanding each other that doesn't matter the position that you have here, your voice is as important as the other voice. So that's,
yeah, it sounds like mutual respect. You respect your team, they respect you, and with that you work together. And you are a fighter, you're a warrior. What advice or words can you send to the women listening today? We'll have several hundred listening to your words of wisdom. What can you tell them?
Tell them that it's beautiful to be a woman, and that they need to understand that they have the power to be who they want to be, and to never let someone to tell them that they are less, and learn how to say no.
Tell us, elaborating on that, tell us an example of when you said no. I know I struggle with that. People want us to do things. How do you say no?
Just learn how to say no. That just learn that your voice is as important as the other, and if you have something to say, and if you want to bring something to the table where you are in a meeting or anywhere, do not feel that you can't speak up, and do not think that because you speak up that somebody's going to look at you that you are less. Just speak up and understand that if you not agree, stand up and say, I'm not agree, I'm going to say no on this. And don't be afraid of that. And it's about learning about your confidence and learning about who you really are and where you really want to go with that, because, I mean, often, when you look at a meeting, like if you look at a conference and then you have like a bunch of guys around and you have a couple of women, how they feel intimidated. They don't know if they can speak up. Hell yeah, they can speak up. Be out there and shut the other down, So it's just, I think it's about finding who you are and finding yourself and learn how to say no. That's all I have to say. learn
Yeah,
how
you're
to
not, and
feel.
you're not just representing yourself, you're representing other women, frankly. And if you don't
Yeah.
say anything, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we have to understand that we have a lot of power as women. We are powerful. We are the voice of also the future. You know, we are here to stay, and we want to work with everyone, and we also as good as the others. But they're not good at, they're not better than us. You know, that's the bottom line. We just, and we need to stand up for each other, and we need also to protect each other, you know, and not to get into this idea that we need to fight against each other, and we need to women is support women for sure, but not, I mean, not all of them. I mean, there's some women that I will not support, to be honest with you, but because what's come out of, because they under the power of of men, and it's just like I find them very ignorant. But the woman that wants to do the right thing, we need to support them, you know. It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And my final question has to do with the title of your book, Rebel Chef. So why did you name your book Rebel Chef? And how does that translate to your
Rebel chef, I mean, rebel is not a bad word. It's just I just don't, I like to think outside of the box, and I don't like the conventional way of thinking of things. I don't want anyone to put me in the box. I will be very much respectful about others and my surrounding, but don't ever put me in the box because you want to put me in the box and shut me down. So that's where that come from.
full steam ahead. Thank you so much for your time today, Chef Crenn. You are an inspiration to all of us, and we look forward to continuing the journey with you in the future. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all for joining us today. A big thank you again to Accenture and to all our sponsors and to our amazing speakers. We appreciate all that you do. We hope you can join us in our next Well event, which will be October 8th at 11 a.m. featuring Annie Lau from Fisher Phillips. Thank you again for joining us. Make sure to visit sfchamber.com to learn more about our outstanding upcoming events. Thank you and have a safe day. Bye-bye.